to start with module 3. Okay, before we start module 3, let me recall our previous discussion that we had before lunch. We have discussed the very basic understanding process of Azure. We have seen identity, Azure identity, like directory service, tenants, okay, multi-factor authentications. In the first module, we have discussed. We have seen in second module, we have discussed about Azure policy, subscription, how we can see the cost management process through the subscription, how we can create a budget, okay, the budgeting area, okay, cost analysis, how we can create policies, how we can assign the policies to the resource group or to any place where we wish to do it, okay, baseline rules, how to add those things, those activity we have done till now from first two module. So module 3 is regarding Azure administration. Again, it is very basic understanding. Okay, I'm not going to start any service right now. Service will start from module 3, module 4, that is virtual network. Okay, so now we have to start Azure administration. This module will tell you the basic structure of Azure. Okay, and will tell you the PowerShell and PowerCLI, Azure CLI, how we can use to manage our infrastructure. We will see ARM template, Azure Resource Manager template, how we can download it from the third party like GitHub, and how do we upload it, or else if we need to create a resource template, okay, how to download it, those things also we can discuss here. We have 5 lessons to do. Last lesson, which is module 3, that is lab and review. Lesson 4 will tell you about ARM template. Lesson 3 will tell you about PowerShell and CLI, how do you use in your local machine PowerShell available, which is, and CLI, Azure CLI, how we can use local available Azure CLI, how we can use to manage our infrastructure. And then also we have to understand the portal, Cloud Shell. Cloud Shell is also another way to use PowerShell or Azure CLI from the cloud portal itself. If we do not have any option to use our locally available PowerShell and Azure CLI to manage our infrastructure, we can use Cloud Shell. Then first lesson will tell you about resource manager. So what is resource manager? What is the basic structure of resource manager? That we are going to discuss now. So in resource manager lesson, we have to understand resource manager concept, terminology, resource group deployment. What is resource group? Also we will discuss. Logs, resource manager logs, moving resources. Okay, resources, moving resources between the resource group or between the subscription whenever it is required. Okay, resource limits we have to understand, and demonstration. Let's see. Resource manager audience, to understand, let me pull you to the history of the Azure. When Azure first time introduced, that was a concept of service manager. Okay, gradually Microsoft Azure is moving towards the resource manager concept, where the resources has been deployed as a unit. Okay, you are deploying the resources individually, but when you manage it, you can manage them as a single unit. Previously, you can manage them individual way, but now you can manage them as a unit. Okay, so from that particular concept, resource manager, the layer has been introduced actually. So in the resource manager, we have 3 distinct layers. Though these layers are the very logical layer, there is no physical presence. You cannot find the each and every layer in the portal or in the cloud. But this is a logical layer to understand the work flow of working, how it is working, which area is doing what type of activities. Okay, to understand that particular thing, we need to discuss. We need to consider the entire resource manager as a 3-layer process. The first layer, that is the topmost layer called SDK. That is the SDK layer or user access layer, you can say, where all the user access APIs, that could be a portal, that could be PowerShell, that could be CLI, that could be any application that can directly communicate with Azure, all belongs to the SDK layer. So from this layer, user is trying to communicate with Azure and provide credential. Once credentials are reached to uh, Azure Resource Manager, this is the second layer, I would say, or ARM layer. This ARM layer is directly communicate with the authentication and authorization service. That could be Azure Ready, that could be any third-party authentication service you have integrated with Azure Ready. Okay. So once you provide your credential, Azure Resource Manager try to evaluate the authentication service and make you authenticate. Once you authenticate and authorized, now last layer, that is called physical layer or bare metal layer, will be available to you. That means now you are ready to work with your infrastructure. Whatever thing you want, means whatever service you want to deploy, you can start it. But yes, your subscription sometimes makes you feel difference. Sometimes your subscription doesn't allow to start virtual machine. For example, audience. So every subscription allow you to start virtual machine. I'm just giving one example. Like if your subscription doesn't support to create or provision a virtual machine, then you cannot use the virtual machine. Means you cannot start virtual machine, you cannot create virtual machine. So subscription here makes a decision that what type of service you can start, what type of service you cannot start. But you are ready to use any service based on your permission available in subscription. So this is the three distinct layer in the Azure Resource Manager. And this is the overall working process of ARM or Azure Resource Manager. Now, effectiveness is we can deploy resource group. Resource group we will discuss. Let me tell you a few things about the resource group now. The resource group is the combination or the grouping of multiple resources. Those resources maybe they are interrelated to their working activities or maybe they are not, no matter. Like you have created a database and you created a web application, but there is no relation between the database and web application. You just create it for your practice purpose, that how do you create it, what option is there, how do you choose those options, why do you choose this option, just for testing purpose. So in that case you may not have the relation between web application and the database, but still you can manage these two services as a unit. Okay, because when you provision those two services, that should be placed in a resource group. Could be a single same resource group or could be a different resource group based on your plan and choice. But since it is present in the inside the resource group and any other resource present already inside it, you can manage everything using a single point of area. Okay, that is a resource group. So if you apply policy to the resource group, as we have discussed in the last module, governance and compliance Azure policy, we have applied the policy to the resource group Accenture RG, if you do recall that. So under Accenture RG, if I have multiple disk, if I have multiple storage account, multiple virtual machine, all virtual machine, all storage account will be affected by the policy. So if you think, if consider that if you want to apply the policy for every machine, every storage, and you have a 500 machine, 500 storage, then you have to repeat the tasks for adding your policy to the appropriate service. That would be very much huge. 500 for virtual machine, same task you are doing, and 500 for 500 tasks you have to do for the storage. That means 1000 tasks, same task you are repeating 1000 times. No, we are not doing this. What we do, we are simply adding the policy to the resource group. So under resource group, whatever existing infrastructure you have and upcoming, whatever future infrastructure that you want to build based on the same resource group, all will be affected by the same policy. Template, resource manager template. You can download the template from the resource group. Once you download it, okay, you have the all service definition inside the template. Now, after downloading it, if it is required, you just change some information present in the resource template. Okay. And after doing the changes, you can upload it to the portal. Maybe to the different subscription, maybe to the different tenant, whatever. Okay. So you can upload it. Once you upload, same kind of infrastructure also you can see that have been built there. So if you want to make a clone of your existing infra, definitely using resource manager, you can do so. Means by using ARM template. Okay, so this is all about the resource manager. When we discuss about the resource manager, few terminology we are frequently using when we discuss it. What? Resource. Resource is a service, simply simple word service. Any service that you have been trying to start from Azure, virtual machine, storage, database, okay, any kind of backup solutions, anything, whatever service available in the Microsoft home, any service that you want to start, that is called resource. Resource group is a collection of resources. Those resources may have the relation in between or may not have, depends. Resource manager template, that is a JSON definition file where the resource information has been written, how they are deploying, what the characteristics when they are deploying, what are the attributes we need to enable when those resources are deploying. So every definition has been there. So it is written on the JSON format. Declarative syntax. So what you need to create, what you need to deploy. So the entire syntax you are writing to create your template used on using JSON, that is called declarative syntax. Resource provider. Resource provider. This is you can say the suppliers of the resources. For example, Microsoft.compute. So compute is the resource provider for the virtual machine, for container service, for OS disk. Okay. So under compute service provider, we have these services. We have compute related services. Under database, we have the database related services like SQL database, data lake service, and all those stuff. So every resource are pointing to the resource provider. Okay. We can directly call the resource, or we can call the resource provider and go inside it and find your resource. Choice is yours. Okay. Most of the time, we are finding the resource directly by calling the resource name directly. Like instead of going to the Microsoft.compute and find the virtual machine, we can directly write the virtual machine and we can find it out. But sometimes it happens that we can't remember the name of the actual resource. In that case, we can go to the resource provider area and we can find it out. Okay. Although we have an option called search option, that also we can use to find out our resources that we wish to start now. Okay. Resource group deployment. Resource group, as I told you, the collection of resources, right? And these resources, maybe they have some kind of relationship, like VM is depends on storage, web application depends on database. That could be possible. Okay, in production house, that is actually following. But sometimes we cannot we can provision the services and put it in a resource group where all the services, all the resources are individual and independent. There is no interrelation between each other. Then in that case, why should I put it in a resource group? Yes, resource group using for creating any service or provisioning any service. First of all, resource group, maintaining resource group is mandatory. Okay, this is the, you can say, the part of the ARM deployment. Okay, so you have to choose resource group, and then you can provision your services. If there is no relationship, then no problem. You can change your resource group, means you can delete the resource group anytime. You can apply any policy to any resources directly because there is no relation. But if they have some kind of relation before you apply the policy, okay, you have to plan. You have to consider all the things like which service is depends on which service. So if you apply your policy for web storage and your VM is depends on storage, somehow your storage got disabled due to the policy. So your VM is not also not going to boot up. So you have to check the relationship dependency level, and based on that, you can apply some uh, management tools to your resource group to manage your resources as a unit instead of individual way. Okay. Another thing, resource group location, like you create a resource group in South India, but your resources may be present in different parts of the world. That could be possible. Why? because resource group is not really hold your resource information. It is hold your the metadata of your information, of your service information, like from where your service is going to be started. You create a resource group in South India, but you provision the VM in US. So when you download the RDP file, or if you want to use SSH, anything, so first it will goes to the resource group, then you can get the RDP file downloaded. So resource group gives you the metadata where your actual resource is hosted, how you can communicate with that actual resource area, everything. Those metadata will be stored in resource group. So it could be possible that your resource group location and your service location could be different. Okay, there is no hard and fast rules that you can't do it. But few service like traffic manager, one of the examples, traffic manager, in case of that, you cannot choose different location other than a resource group location. If your resource group location is West India and you provision a traffic manager will not allow you to change the location. Traffic manager will use that location only. Now, if you create a resource group in one location but your resource present in different location, you could get a problem when you migrate it. For example, like replication, site replication. Okay. In case of site replication and you migrate virtual machine from one location to another location for the disaster recovery activity, you will get a problem. If your VM location is different than your resource group, your VM is not going to be traceable. Okay. You can choose the resource. You can choose the location of the resource group, but since your VM is present in different location, your VM is not going to be visible in the wizard. So that could be a problem. By getting these informations, now you can plan that you really want to deploy your service in a different location other than a resource group, or you want to choose same location. Choice is yours, but you can do so. Resource manager lock. Resource manager lock is some one tool you can say which is prevent you or protect you from any accidental or unintentional deletion or modification. The lock can be two types: read-only lock and delete lock. Read-only lock means once you assign the lock, that particular resource or resource group will be unmodified. You can't do any kind of modification to the resource or resource group. You cannot delete that resource or resource group since it is a read-only lock. But if it is a delete lock only, then you can do the modification to the resources or to the resource group. Modification is allowed for read only. Sorry, for delete only. But you cannot delete the resource group or resources since it is locked with the type of delete. Delete activity will be prohibited for delete lock, and read-only lock, delete as well as modification, both activity will be prohibited. So lock actually, it's not based on user, it's applicable for all. Okay, and it is not allow the global administrator also to bypass this lock activity. If it is locked, that means locked. You can't do anything. Okay, unless you delete the lock, you can't do anything. That resource or resource groups, as per your type of lock, you maybe you are not able to modify it or you are not able to delete it. Okay, moving the resources. Okay, from one resource group to another resource group, on one resource group to, or from one subscription to another subscription, you can move the resources. But audience, way it is showing, it seems like very simple to do it, but it is not really. Because, for example, a single virtual machine, when you move from one resource group to, or from one subscription to another subscription or something, you will get lots of problems. First of all, if your virtual machine is using availability zone with managed disk, you cannot move. If your virtual machine is using some kind of feature that your other subscription is not supporting, you can't move. Your public IP you cannot move. If they have any load balancer configured with your VM, you cannot move. If they have any traffic manager configured in the VM and you need to move it, you can't move. So lots of consideration is there when you move your virtual machine to the your virtual machine to another resource group or another resource group present in different subscriptions. Got it. So I'm giving one example of the VM, but in real time, if you want to migrate anything, you have to take a you have to get a consideration list that which thing you can migrate or which thing you cannot migrate. In case something if you are not able to migrate, then you have to create it manually to the target location. Otherwise, when you migrate your services, you may get some kind of problem. Maybe you are directly get a problem, get a fail message of the movement. Depends. But yes, it's true that resources can be moved from one resource group to another resource group time to time if it is required. So few service name already mentioned here, AD domain service, express route, site recovery. Okay, so these are the service you cannot migrate from one resource group to another resource group. Removing, you can either delete the resource individually or you can delete the resource group as a whole. That means once you delete the resource group, every resource present inside the resource group will also delete it. Audience, remember, few service there is an exception. For example, backup. If you have a backup service you have started and you have taken a backup also, unless you delete the backup data present in the backup service, you cannot delete the backup service from the resource group. You can't. First, you have to delete the backup data that you have taken, and then only you can delete the backup vault or backup storage. Otherwise, you can't delete. Even if you try to delete the resource group, still you will get a fail message. Okay. But yes, that resource you can delete or resource group you can secure. If you want to delete all the resources uh, using single activity, then delete the resource group, all the resources normally deleted, or you can individually choose your resource and delete it. Choice is yours. Resource limit, these things I have already discussed in our previous module, like usage and quota of the subscription. So you can find the subscription wise and location wise how many services you can start. Okay. Total number of virtual CPU, how many you can use for each US, that is 100. How many you have already used for your virtual machine and all other stuff. So this is the resource limits you can check by going to that subscription. And under subscription, you have a usage and quota. Resource group. Let's go to the portal and see the resource group activity. So this is my portal. Let me change to my default directory. Mhm. Okay, so here I am. So I can go to the resource group. Okay. Now before we go for the resource group, let me tell you this is the portal. This is the home option, audience. Okay. Home will tell you the all the features, all the services that you have started, or maybe very recent activities, whatever you have done. Okay, that will be showing. It not matters it's that how long before you have started or how long before you have used, but the recent activity that could be a 5 days back. Maybe if in between 5 days you didn't open your portal. So recent activity that is 5 days before. That could be you can see here in the home option. And other the services that I have used very frequently. Okay, that also going to show here. Now if you click it, this particular option, there is a home. Already I'm in the home. There is a dashboard. Dashboard something will allow you to pin up some kind of activities. Okay, pin up means like you can start the you can start storage every time. So instead of hunting the storage area and searching the storage area every time, you just pin up the storage activity or storage information here in the dashboard. So dashboard will allow you to access a service very quickly, find out your stuff that you are every day using very quickly. Okay, you can decorate your dashboard if you wish to do. Okay, like you can click on new dashboard and add pin, move and resize your tiles. Matrix chart you can add resource group. You can add the resource group. Okay, that no matter how many resource group I have, I can add it. Right? So by this way, you can add your resources and other stuff, your activities here to easily access your information. Okay, this is called dashboard. Done customization. Got it. Now, if I go to all services, all resources or all services, better to go for all services. Okay, audience, I knew that you guys are already aware about the portal, but few participants is here who totally new in this particular environment. So this information for them only. So in all resources, all services, you have the service list available. Now these are the resource provider or service provider, you can say. Whatever you want to click, like storage, if I do click on storage, I will find the storage related services. If I click on database, you will find the database related services. So these are the things that you can find uh, in the portal. Okay, these are the resource providers, and each resource provider is pointing to the list of resources or services that you want to start. Clear? Now, let me do some activity. Like if I go to the resource group, I have some resource group, but if I wish, I can create another resource group. I'm using portal based activity, but later we can shift to PowerShell and CLI. You can say prod VM region. You can choose a region where you want to store it. Let's say East US 2. I can choose any of the region, okay, and create it, validate and create it. So just refresh it. Sometimes your portal is not getting refreshed very frequently or very quickly. You just refresh with your screen. That would make more good effect. You can see your updates. Still it is not there. Let me see the notification. It has gone. Okay. How do I know then? Yeah, there is a prod VM. Did I mention prod VM or RG? Oh, mistakenly I mentioned prod VM. That is a resource group. This is a resource group. Okay. Mistakenly I mentioned that name. But I cannot change the name. I cannot rename the name of the resource group. I can delete the resource group, but I cannot rename it. Okay. Anyway, let me delete it so that I can use proper name, because this name makes me confused sometimes. I don't have any VM. How do I provide the name of it? And now I can create my resource group. Prod RG. Okay. East to west 2. Create. Prod VM is still deleting. So let me check with the, yeah, it is. I have my prod RG. This is the resource group. So whatever resource I wish to have, I can do it. I can use it. Let's say, let me create a resource. Okay. What resource? For movement, to show you how to move your data from one resource group to another resource group. For easy example, let me create a VNet. So here you can find that when I create the virtual network, I will go in detail about the virtual network later. I'm just creating the virtual network to show you movement between one resource group to another resource group. Okay. So I'm not going to discuss any detailed information about the virtual network. I will go with the default setup. Let's see. So there you can find, when I create any resource, no matter whether it is virtual network, VM, or anything, resource group and the subscription should be fixed one that you need to provide. Without that, you will not start your service. Okay, you can't provision it. So choose your resource group. In our case, that is prod RG. Provide the name like, okay, prod vnet, probably underscore one. Location, I can change the location, or I can use it same location as my resource group, or I can change it. Okay. Address, just for quick accessibility. Yeah, hello audience, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can see.
Yes, we
Sorry
can.
for the disturbance. Yeah, sorry for the disturbance. I lost my network connectivity.
So, Sudhir, I have
Now
a
it has
question.
been. Yes, yes.
Yeah, so how we can identify which IP address and range to provide here? Is the detail given in the subscription? Oh. where we can.
No,
Uh,
no. Uh, okay, I will discuss the virtual networking in detail, but for your query, let me tell you, this IP address actually provided by us as an administrator. This is a private IP address, and it has uh, we have the full control to it, but Microsoft have no control to it. Okay, we will assign this IP address. This is a private IP address, and this IP address planning entirely done by us as an administrator. Okay,
okay.
this is a private IP again. It has no control. Means it cannot be controlled by Microsoft. Microsoft is only controlling when Microsoft providing the public IP address. There is a two IP
So,
address. One is
so
public,
that
one
I
is private.
that IP address we can use for the local VMs communication in Azure.
Yes, that we can use the public IP
Okay.
address also we can mention in the virtual network. But what will happen whenever you expose your virtual network by using any other service like load balancer sometime or traffic manager, there is a huge problem. There is a network confliction. That's why virtual network should have a private IP address. You can't use means it is not recommending to use public IP in virtual network. Don't use it. Any moment for any service, if your private IP address exposed to publicly and you have used public IP address as a private one, there is a huge problem.
All right.
Got it? There is a network confliction. That's why it is not recommending. And another information that every region, Microsoft every region, there is a some set of public IP address fixed. Okay, if you go to the Google and find out the public Azure public IP based on region, you will probably get a link from where you can see that which region have what set of private public IP addresses. Like India, North India, South India, everywhere there is a specific set of IP addresses available. You are always getting public IP from that particular set. Am I clear?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I am creating a virtual network with very quick. Let me refresh my app again. Prod prod v1 underscore one. Okay. So I'm trying to add one subnet here. Done. Let me go to the security. Let me check. Okay. Let me create it. Wait for a while. Okay. Create. Okay, so this deployment is now underway. Wait for 1 or 2 minutes. Yeah, deployment done. Go to resource. So this is my virtual network. Okay, again I mentioned VNet, that would be VM I mentioned anyway. So that is my subnet, subnet 164.0. This is my address space. If I click it, 172.21.0.0/16. So this is my virtual network. Okay. Now if I want to migrate, means if I want to change my resource group name, I can click on move. So I can move to the another resource group, or I can move to the another subscription. So since I have only one subscription now available with me, if I choose this one, it will ask me to select target subscription, which is I don't have. So I will choose this one, move to another resource group. Click it. Now move to the resource group, move this resource to, this is your target resource group. Okay. Let me choose to whom I can send it. Let's say I will go to the, I will choose new RG. New RG is another resource group. I'm just choosing it. I understand, that is, I understand that rules and script associated with moved resource will not work until I have update them to the new resource ID. That will automatically update it. Okay. Anyway, to the okay. Now it is validating that the resource I'm going to move from one resource group to another resource group, maybe there is some uh, service which is not supported to the target location. Okay. Or the resource I'm going to move, if they have any kind of interdependency with other resources, that will be also validating. So everything will be checking, and then finally it will approve that okay, this resource now can be moved. But if they have any interdependencies or something which is not able to move, okay, with this resource, you will get an error message. That's why I have chosen virtual network, because virtual network is a very small service that we can start very easily, and we can migrate to show you that how migration process or movement is happening from one resource group to another resource group. So wait for a while. The validating process is still going on. Once it is complete, we can move ahead. Hmm. Okay. Taking time. What I can do? Let me open my new tab and let me show you the other demonstration. Okay. Mm, Broadband. Every resource group that you have, you can find the logs. The logs you can find in resource group, or you can find it to the resource level also. So if I go to my home tab, wait for a while, resource group, let me click on Accenture RG, and there is a log. I can click on the log, and I can add the log. Provide the name. Let me give a good name, prod. log. Now log type is delete or read only. If I do read only, that will actually protecting this resource group to do any kind of modification and deletion. So if I add so, what will happen? The log has created. Now if I click on overview of the resource group, I have some resources already available. Though these resources is functionless, means I cannot use these resources for my activities. Okay, but still I can show you something from here also. So if I open this open this resource, okay, and if you go to the logs, you can find the log option from the resource level also. Okay, you can see prod log that I have assigned to the resource group, it has been inherited to the resource level. I can add here also. I can add another log here. That's okay, absolutely okay. Nobody can stop you to do that. But if any log present in the resource group level, that will be inherited here. Okay, and most restrictive option will be applied. Like here it is read only. So on the read only activity, you can. Okay. Now what I can do, let me go back to my resource group and um, try to create, try to do something here. Okay. What I can do, anything very easily.
Sujit, do we get the activity log if somebody goes and tries to delete the locked resource?
Uh, I'm sorry, please repeat your question.
Do we get the audit log or activity log if someone goes
Mhm.
to delete which is failed due to the lock?
Okay, the activity log you want to see. We'll check. We'll check it. Wait for a while.
Okay.
Let me show you. Let me show you. So here I can choose my resource group that I wish to use. See, the selected resource group is read only. And now, if I go to my activity log, for if I go to monitor and I need to check the activity log, I can directly call the activity log from here also. Anything. There is a log for the delete virtual machine, add management log, and all those things, but it is not tell you anything related with this activity. Because when I choose the resource group, the validation is happening here. For validations, you are not getting any activity log. Then how do I get the information about, how do I get the information that if a resource is locked and I try to delete or try to modify something, it's something happen, sometimes happen, audience. Like for example, um, let me go to the resource group and open Accenture RG. Wait for a while. See, I cannot use it. It is automatically tracking. But any existing infrastructure you have and you want to modify it, let me go to this. And if I go to the Accenture file or file sync, like delete this, okay, it is giving me different errors. That's for a while. Hmm, a good example I'm trying to find out to show you. To fulfill your query, I need a good example. Like triggering alert, use the chart trigger something in all administrative operations. Hmm, done. And if there is an action group, create action group. Audience wait. Okay. Group one, short name G. Subscription resource group is Accenture RG. Action. Yeah, hotmail.com. Wait for a while. Now here it is error message. We failed to create an update action group one error. This saying that it is a locked. If I just open my error cannot perform by the operation because the following scopes are locked. Now that particular information, if you try to search in activity log, probably you would have, but it will take some time to show you. So if you have a proper error message you are getting here in the notification icon, there you can, that information you can see in the activity log. But during the validation, if you failed, okay, or the option you are choosing that is not suitable, that information you cannot see in the activity log. So after 5 minutes or 6 minutes, okay, you will see that I have started to create an action group, but I have failed for the uh, reason that my resource group has been locked or the scope has been locked. Am I clear? Hello.
Yeah, Sujit. Yeah.
So that information you can find, but you have to wait few minutes, 1 to 2 minutes. Let it be come here and we'll check. Then definitely we can see the latest information. But any kind of validation related errors that you cannot see in the activity log.
Got
Okay.
it.
Yeah. Okay. So where I was. Okay. So I gave you the example that how logs actually work. Since I have added the logs there. Now movement. Let me check my movement has done or not. I was starting a movement, resource movement from one resource group to another resource group. Let me find out has been successful or not. So I was using plot RG and moving to new RG. So let me check. So this is the virtual network has migrated. Let me check the current status. I can find the current status here. Yeah, it has been migrated, successfully migrated. So my new location is new RG. Previously that was a prod RG. Location is East US. Okay, and this is the address space you can see and subnet you can see. So everything has been moved successfully from one resource group to another resource group. Got it. You can create the resource group by using PowerShell or CLI platform also. That we will see soon, how to use PowerShell and CLI. Azure Portal and Cloud Shell. What is Azure Portal? Mobile application portal demonstration we have done lots of time, right? Azure Cloud Shell, how we can start the Cloud Shell, what is the significance of it? Okay, to use Cloud Shell that we have to do in a demonstration mode. So this is the portal. Portal, you can open portal by using portal.azure.com. Everyone knows it, but just for uh, training purpose, I have to tell this information. Portal.azure.com. So once you have the portal, now you can check your home option, dashboard. You can find out. You can modify the dashboard. Okay. So and you will find your infrastructure there. You just click on the search box. You can see there. You can write anything that you wish to have. But yes, the character or the or the information you are writing here that should be matched with your service that you have deployed or the service which is available in platform that you can start. Got it? So this is called portal. You can create a customized dashboard. You can access the cloud shell. Mobile app, instead of having a portal all the time, means you instead of opening a portal all the time, you can use mobile app. Mobile app is a Azure app that you can install from Windows Store, and by using your credential, you can permanently log into that. Whenever you wish, you can open the mobile app and you can see your infrastructure, that how it runs. Okay, is there any kind of problem it is having, or you need to do some activity with that? Okay, all those things you can do from the mobile itself. Okay, you don't need to open your laptop or desktop machine every time to open a Azure infrastructure. So that we have seen. Cloud Shell. Azure Cloud Shell is a way through which you can run your script or you can run the command. Now, sometimes it happens that your local machine, desktop or laptop, are not allowed to download any extra modules in PowerShell, or it will not allow you to download any MSI package because CLI, Azure CLI is available as a MSI package. You need to download it and install it. So company laptop probably not allow you to download anything, right? So in that case, how do you run commands? How do you run commandlets, or how do you run scripts in your